Good morning. I hope everyone's having a good time. Hope you're enjoying the conference. My name's Chris Fleck. I'm Chief Technology and Product Officer at a company called Mobysoft. If you haven't heard of us, we're probably fairly well known for our Rent Sense product, so income management. Maybe less well known for our Repair Sense product, so all around analytics, AI, helping our customers drive down the cost of running and managing repairs and assets functions. In the session today, we're going to be talking about transforming service delivery in social housing, the promise and challenges of AI. And for me, AI is everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. There isn't one flavor of AI, lots of different types, lots of different challenges, lots of different risks. And so with our audience and our panel today, we're going to explore some of those opportunities, some of the challenges, and we're going to see what experiences people can bring to bear. So sitting with me today is a range of industry veterans from deep within social housing and also within technology providers as well. Now, I'll do an intro very quickly, and then I'll ask the panel to do a slightly deeper dive on themselves. So firstly, we have Ian Kelly, Director of Digital Innovation at Dane, Siobhan Whiteman, Board Member at Women in Social Housing, Ian Pike, a Senior Technical Specialist at Microsoft, and Dominica Phillips-Blackburn, Head of Product at Mobysoft. So before we get going, if we just go my right to left, Ian, could you start off with a brief intro, please?
So I'm Ian Pike. I'm a technical specialist at Microsoft. I've worked for Microsoft for about 7 years prior to working in industry. My role is about helping customers understand what the technology is and how you overcome that. So obviously we work with partners similar to Mobysoft about developing products that they can go and use. And obviously we've got our own solutions around AI and data to help you sort of transform customers' lives that you're working with.
I'm Ian Kelly, Director of Digital and Innovation at Dane. Got 15 years experience working in social housing, 10 within IT, 5 within the operations, repairs, asset management, and I've worked in other sectors such as casino and construction. Focus on the digital, but also on the innovation side where we focus on non-digital elements as well, because it's not just digital that brings around innovation.
Hello everyone, I'm Siobhan Waitman. I'm a board member of Wish Northeast, Women in Social Housing. Up until tomorrow, I am currently Assistant Director of Tech and Transformation at Your Homes Newcastle, but Newcastle City Council is taking the service back in, so not for long. And I lead 4 teams, PMO, all about delivering change, a data team, information governance, inextricably linked, and also IT. I've got a long background in local government and in policing, and really get that bigger picture, the rich picture of what we're trying to achieve in terms of housing associations really being place shapers. So it's not just about providing safer homes, it's actually using data, using AI to actually provide stronger communities as well.
Hello everyone, my name is Dominica Phillips-Blackburn. I'm Head of Product for our income solutions at Mobysoft. I've been with the company for about 3 years, and social housing sector is relatively new to me, but I've learned fast by working with a lot of our customers. I'm always interested in trying to provide value back through our solutions to our customers to improve that service delivery. Thank you.
Great, thank you panel. Before we go into the questions, there's a QR code on the screen. If you'd like to ask us some live questions, take a photo with your smartphone. You can ask anonymous questions. We'll have about 10 minutes towards the end to pick off a handful of the questions you've submitted. Please be nice. So to kick off, first question, how can artificial intelligence specifically enhance service delivery in social housing, and what are some successful examples we've observed or implemented? Siobhan, can I start with you?
Yeah, sure can. I think when I joined the sector, and coming from a local government and policing background, when I joined the sector, it was just after Grenfell, and my kind of take on the sector was that we were quite behind the curve in terms of technology and transformation. Obviously, COVID has really, the pace of change has really ramped up, and the possibilities that are offered through AI are immense, and it can actually, I suppose it provides the opportunity for the sector to level up in terms of actually getting better at improvement cost reduction, delivering better outcomes for customers, enhancing productivity, freeing up the valuable time of our staff so that they can spend more time with those people, our customers, our tenants who really depend on us most, our more vulnerable communities. So I think AI offers so many opportunities for the sector. In terms of examples, I suppose I'm going to say rent sense. So again, this was, it's really proactive. We spend a lot of resources in terms of responding to situations and to risks and issues, but this is very much upstream, preventative, again, freeing up the time of our income officers and really having that intelligence to actually detect those customers who may not be in arrears, but there is a likelihood of them falling into arrears. And when you put a cost on that, it's quite significant, but if you get upstream, be preventative, that's a really good use of AI. I must say as well, AI is not something new, is it? It's always been there. It's just, it's ramping up for me. The significance is data. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge within the sector at the moment when we talk about AI. It is about that, having clean data, adhering to data standards, and it is a risk, we know that. So another example, what I've observed within YHN is chatbots, virtual assistants within the contact centre. This really helps to drive down failure demand. Freeing up the lines so that our contact staff again can spend more times with those customers who really need to resolve a resolution on a specific inquiry that can't be resolved by a chatbot. So that's a second example. Third example is probably again on repairs and that predictive maintenance. We know that damp and mould is a significant issue again in the sector, but I suppose it's looking at the data, making sure that it's cleansed, it's accurate, and then also aligning that, because that's the quantitative, the data's the quantitative, but also having the behavioural insights. So for example, tenants that maybe have 3 dogs, that's going to cause issues, and it's having those, it's going from having that data, because we're data rich, aren't we, as a sector, but we're insight poor, and I suppose it's bringing that together whereby we use AI to actually take out the waste and deliver better outcomes for the business and for our customers. So I think I've given 3 good examples. There's so many more.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Sean. Really interesting. Ian Kelly, can you maybe add to that and give us your perspective?
So I agree with Siobhan. I think AI's been here for a while. You may not have noticed it. Telephony systems, transcriptions, and so forth. They've been in those core products that have existed outside of the housing sector. So I think that example of we're not quite where we need to be is there, but it's coming to the forefront with things like ChatGPT, Copilot. For me, I think the opportunities are to expand, enhance, and augment what we do rather than try and replace the services that we provide. We should be using AI to free up our colleagues to use their experience, their knowledge, and their relationships with our customers rather than go, we can put a AI service in to do a housing officer's job. It's not taking away the work to enhance their ability to deliver that service. We're using some examples where we've used a product called Viable. We've taken in all of our customer feedback comments. It analyzes it. It does exactly the work that our performance analysts were doing. It took 8 to 16 hours, depending on how much we got, whereas the AI system's doing it in 2 hours, and they're actually now able to use that trend analysis to put action into place. I think other options are, don't know about anyone else, but our management agents are always a fun job to manage. We've used the AI to take the documentation to pull out the liabilities, the SLAs. Someone sitting down doing that job probably would have quit, but also would have taken them a fair bit of time to get that information. And we're looking at ways of how repetitive, volume-heavy tasks that we might not have done in the past because it just wasn't cost-effective can be done using AI. So, how do we validate that our bungalow is actually a 2-floor building? It's probably unlikely, but using, street maps or other type of imagery processing, we can use that AI to validate that data on a scale that was previously unheard of unless we went out and did a complete visit of all stock. So that's where I think it can be. It's that enhance, expand, and augment.
Right, that's really nice model. Thank you, Ian. Finally, Dominica.
Yeah, I think actually most of you said some really good examples there. The only one that I would probably add as well is that I've seen in the sector is UC verification. So there's been a lot of automation. So automating sort of administrative tasks, that's probably something that is quite useful and helps that service delivery as well. So that's probably what the other example that I'd use that I've noticed in the industry. But generally, it's about improving that productivity, automation, prediction, getting useful insights, and ultimately providing value.
Okay, thank you guys. So some really fascinating use cases and examples of how to apply AI. So second question then, what are the primary challenges we face in integrating AI technologies within social housing infrastructures? Dominica, can I come back to you again to start
Yeah, I think as Siobhan alluded to earlier on, data probably is the biggest one. So making sure that we've got good data, a wealth of it, that there's some governance around that data as well. So making sure that they can standardise it, it's clean. It really starts there. If you've got a good data set, then you can obviously create future models. And really utilise AI to find those insights and predictions. So I think that's probably the first one I would say. Ethical considerations. I think we're still in murky waters. There's guidelines, there's principles. We just need to be very careful that we don't exclude people or introduce bias. So definitely those ethical considerations. At Mobysoft, we formed an AI council to address this because we know that it's something that we have to take into consideration, and it can't just be the data scientists' problem. It has to be owned by the whole company. So we regularly meet, we exchange sort of thoughts, and we produced an ethical kind of guideline around this. And then third thing I would say is probably the third challenge, probably adoption. So being able to adopt AI, there's a lot of resistance around, is it taking over my job, that sort of thing. I think those are valid concerns, but we should look at AI really to be there to augment our current processes and procedures and really utilise it to be better, essentially, rather than sort of being apprehensive. So I think those are my three challenges, but you can overcome them. You just need a good strategy around all three.
Yeah. And on your council, that's a cross-functional council, or? It
is, yeah. So we've got representation across the whole of the business. We have external people coming to the meeting as well. It's monthly. We probably will then start looking to engage our customers as well, just to sort of understand how, really is to be transparent and explain our accountability around how we use our solutions.
Right. What about arbitration, if you don't agree?
If we don't agree,
yeah.
Internally amongst ourselves, I think we have to try and find a common set of standards. So we do have that. So we need to revise that all the time because the technology is changing all the time as well. So as we get deeper and deeper into these solutions, we need to respond to that in that way. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Okay, thank you. Ian Kelly.
Yeah, so I think the challenges we face, data quality and data governance is an absolute one. I think privacy and security is hand in hand with that. I think the advent of kind of OpenAI and the kind of terms and conditions that come with those services, I don't think we fully understand that. Sometimes using that service, you're actually freely giving away that data to train that model. So if people are uploading customer data to go, can you summarize this? That's a potential breach.
Yeah.
I think knowing that actually with third parties, it's getting that level of detail and understanding that. Don't know about anyone else, I'm not an expert in contract law, but it's getting that detail, so there's risk involved there. I think the fact that you might start an idea off with a proof of concept, let's put AI CCTV in to check for slips and trips and falls, but then someone comes along and goes, we could use that for monitoring this, this and this, but if we haven't been transparent about that use with customers or colleagues, again, you can go into a kind of privacy issue there as well. I think alongside that, you've got bear with me for a second, it's the workforce readiness. Again, everybody's an AI expert in the market. How much of that do we have in-house to be able to challenge, when we're dealing with companies like Mobysoft or with Civica or Capita, we know the services they provide. We've got experts in-house, income officers, we've got housing officers who know that service. The question is, how many IT teams have AI experts in there that can go, actually, I know what a large language model is, I know what's going to happen when this goes on, and if we use this algorithm. So I think while there's the question of how do we embrace it, make sure people are comfortable with it, it's how do we assure that, because again, the technology is changing so fast. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the difference between ChatGPT 3.5 to 4 is dramatic. What's 5 going to look like? How do we keep on top of that so we can provide that assurance to our customers and to board and committee as well? I say it's some of the risks that we've got.
Right. And how do you keep on top of it in that fast-moving environment where there's so many new tools? What steps are you taking to keep on top?
Use an AI tool to summarise it for you and tell you what's going on, but that feels like an issue in itself. But I think that is a problem. I think using partners, we work with the University of Liverpool, so we have access to some actual expertise in that area. I think the fact that we've got to look in training that area up, so we're looking at an AI apprentice, because while we might not need it now, in the future, let's start building our own capability in there, because the odds are we'll be moving away from the commodity-based, here's a generalized AI large language model, to probably a social housing one. So there's got to be some kind of built-in skill that we have to develop alongside that. There is a lot of material out there, but it's very difficult. There's a lot of bias, there's a lot of opinions on it. So I think it is just keeping up with the kind of technology, but using those partners elsewhere that are doing this work for us, because I don't think any of us are going to turn into an AI expert overnight.
Right. And do you see opportunities for social housing providers to work together, to collaborate together, to start to drive some of these changes?
Absolutely. I think, again, Mobysoft's probably an example of that, where, the collectiveness, the greater the large language model, or the large model in general, the better the detail and the data, you're getting, better results as well. Because while we think we have big data, we're not big data in comparison to markets like Amazon and so forth. So by getting more data, you look at the work that is going on with the open data exchange, trying to get a data standard. I think that commonality would be useful, but then also sharing the experience between, colleagues who are on the operations to feed into it as well. So it's not just policy and procedure, it's got that lived experience, something that needs to be there. And the more you have, the more diversity that's included as well, because that's a general issue with AI at the moment, is you need to feed in and make sure that input is as wide as possible.
Right, that's really good, thank you. Finally, Ian Pike.
Yeah, I think, a lot of the points touched on, it's about skilling and how you can get onto that. There's obviously changing very fast, so I think it's how you stay up to date. Obviously working for Microsoft, I find my own challenges keeping up to how fast we're making things. Obviously things going into the cloud, that obviously brings challenges about understanding what that means. That's very different from, very much how you're implementing it on-prem. We're very much about, responsible AI and how you implement that. So again, you touched on OpenAI. Obviously they're a partner of ours. The implementation of OpenAI is very different internally at Microsoft. So we don't send the data to OpenAI when you take that up. So it's very much understanding the difference between the services and things like that when you're using them. We've got very much these co-pilots, which they've been sort of nicknamed and understanding, but it is very much a co-pilot. You're still the pilot, so you need to understand, what it's putting out there. It's not just, let it go and deliver all of that. It's, someone still needs to understand that. So I think there's a lot of growing still to go, and it's working closely with, partners and, people around that. And, it's how we can get the skills to you to then be able to go and help that. So again, a lot of that is we're infusing that into a lot of our services. I'd say we've got one co-pilot, but actually we've probably got about 40 or 50. So it's understanding, where you're using all this technology, understanding, how you get it, and, touch on some of the points. It's about the data. If you put bad data in, you're going to get bad data out. So, just not think about AI, think about, well, what's the data platform that you're building on to sort of bring that data into your AI and give you the insights that you're going to give off the back of that.
Very good. So if you have a problem, call Microsoft, is the answer to that one. Right, moving on to the next question. Can you elaborate on the potential risks associated with AI reliance on social housing management? How do you manage these risks? And how do you prevent unintended consequences? Ian Kelly, can I start with you?
Yeah, so I think the first one for me is the bias and discrimination that can be built into. It's already identified if you use ChatGPT, there's notifications all over it, but again, it's raising that awareness to say, actually, if you are using this, there should always be a validation point of view. We're developing an AI framework rather than an AI strategy, because we're not, I'm not too interested in what we use AI for at the moment. What I'm very interested in is how we use it. That we're using it in the right way, that we're aware of what the impacts are to reduce those unintentional issues. But that comes with training and awareness to say, actually, this is how you should use it. It's not the panacea for all resource issues. Copilot's a very good term. It's working with you, not for you. It's not replacing you. You've still got to do that same validation. The training side of it is quite key. If you bring on a new member of staff, you've got to train them up. They've got to know how the business works. You've got to develop them if you want them to succeed and do well for the business. AI is very similar. If you don't train it, if you don't keep it up to date, if you don't make sure that it's getting the right opinion, you're going to end up with issues down the line. So I think that's one of the big risks in there. I think rapid rollout can be a problem. One proof of concept in one area and suddenly it's AI everywhere. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to succeed. So I think taking that not quite slow approach, but thorough approach, that every kind of usage, I think the AI Council is a really good example of that, where actually let's sit down and discuss it first, because just because we can doesn't mean we should. And having that kind of thoughtful process of where we're going to use it, because there will always be some unintentional impact that we just don't know. Every change does. So I think that's one of the challenges. And I think the other one is loss of knowledge. It's one that I'm kind of concerned about when it comes to it. It's that longer term thing. I was kind of aligned to kind of the food industry or automotive industry. 20 years ago, people built cars. Now people support the robots that build cars. So how in 20 years is housing going to look? Is it just 5 experts that feed a model that everybody else just takes the answer from? Or is it all about kind of having that virtual partner, sitting on your shoulder type thing instead? So they're the big risks for me, I think.
Okay. On the training side, do you use external parties to help you with training, or is this internally developed content?
At the moment, it's mostly external. We don't have that level of expertise to be able to do that, but we are very conscious of learning in kind of what we would call code development. So making sure that we're not overly reliant on the third party, but getting the expertise in and growing that as each kind of proof of concept we do, we learn from it, so that the next one we're a little bit more armed, and hopefully it's probably 90-10. We want to switch it to the other way around, really, because we don't see it taking over the entire business, but we want to at least be in the position to go, we know how that works.
All right, good, thank you. Sean, can I pose the same question to you?
Yeah, I think when we are looking at implementing AI, we've got to look through the lens of doing it lawfully, ethically, and responsibly. And we must never ever lose sight of our customer base. And we serve some very vulnerable members of society, and we must be very, very aware of that. So I probably would draw a risk in terms of privacy, and I probably put a lens on GDPR and the 7 principles of data protection, because these are absolutely key, which is about lawfulness, trust and transparency, and making sure that our customers and our tenants give us that informed consent. It's about purpose limitation, only using the data for the intended purpose that it's for. It's about data minimization, so only collecting the data that we need. It's about accuracy, and we've had the chat about that in terms of data quality across the sector, storage limitation, integrity and confidentiality, and I think the big layer is governance, making sure that there's a transparency, there is accountability, and that whether we have ethics committees that oversee the risks, the challenges, the opportunities, the benefits of AI within the context of social housing.
Right. All right. Some really great guidance there. Thank you. Moving on to our final question before we go to the audience. What advancements in AI do you think will be most influential for the future of social housing, and how do providers adapt to prepare for those innovations? Dominica, can I start with you?
Yeah, so I think there's going to be more enhanced predictive analytics. So I think there's more insights that we can find and use. It's all about getting the right use case though, and understanding the business problem, because I think there's everybody thinks AI is going to be the answer for everything, and actually we need to sort of think and start small really, and go what's the problem that we're trying to solve, and then try and look for the data, and then try and build the models on that basis. So I think that's one area that's definitely is growing and emerging. And then obviously advanced natural language programming. I mean, we've got a repairs program, which repair sensors are one of our products. But I think that's going to be further taken into the sector about looking at things like customer satisfaction, understanding those sorts of trends on contact engagement. There's a whole wealth that we can do through language and through words really to understand any trends in that sort of space. As with any sort of technology though, I think there's a couple of things that you have to sort of set out in the beginning. So that's again looking at the data, understanding the business problem that you've got, setting some kind of governance and seeing whether you've got the skill set internally to be able to actually go through with it. So and that might be that that you invest in data science maybe internally within your organisation or you partner. So there's a couple of benefits there. And again, start small, proof of concept at Mobysoft. When we've worked previously on some of our product initiatives, we've worked closely with our customers, sought that feedback, done a proof of concept, asked them for feedback around the solution, so there's clear transparency about how we get to the results that we get. And then finally monitor continuous feedback, so keep going through that loop and seeing if whether it's appropriate, maintain your solutions. We've gone through, I think on one of our models that we released in November, there's probably been 3 updates to that since that model, so you can't just sort of do it, leave it and then walk away. You have to continually invest in that space.
Right. Is there anything that makes you nervous about the future?
Probably the lack of resource and understanding around it. So it is a specialist skill, and it is quite emerging. So I think that's probably going to be the big challenge, because it's not just for social housing. This is everywhere at the moment. So, and we probably have a limited resource pool within the UK to be able to sort of deliver all of these things. So I think that's probably the biggest concern I've got in all that process.
All right, great, thank you. Ian Kelly, your view on the future?
So I think biggest sky picture for me, if you look at it holistically, I think if you bring image processing, kind of the natural language processing into it, as well as the being able to create, we talk about large language models, but actually if you had an organizational model that sat alongside that knew your business as well as everybody else, that organizational context, and if you brought that in with robotics, so augmented reality robotics, that localized AI that can sit on the shoulder of a colleague as they're going out, that can feed that information to them in real time. So they're there, they can see that, did you notice that bit of damp and mold in the corner? No, I didn't, but thank you for letting me know. I'll then process that. Being able to do that in real time might sound like a pipe dream, but augmented reality was a pipe dream in 1990. So where are we going to be in 2035, 2040? I think that's where we could end up. Robotic sensors, the fact that we've got CCTV in most of the schemes and blocks, imagine that being processed to go, oh, there's a repair that needs to be done. Doesn't need any intervention. The AI can process that and go, I'm going to log a repair on behalf because I've spotted that within the second that it's happened. And I think that's some of the opportunities and the advancements I would look forward to, as long as the governance and the ethical usage is in there, because that's where we need to be, avoiding that kind of zero contact type support, so we can focus on the more value added. That's the
Right.
things I think are useful.
Right, it's really driving AI to just focus people on the high value touch points. Yeah, okay. Siobhan?
Yeah, in a world where we've got austerity, we're about delivering better for less. I think it's about demand and having a real grip on demand management. So as we bring in CRM and integrate that, we can actually manage our demand better. We can address failure demand, but we can also look at our resources, look at the peaks and troughs in service provision, and actually be more upstream, more preventative in terms of actually providing our resources to the right people, the right skills, at the right place, at the right time. So I suppose what I'm saying is that we're becoming much more smarter in terms of delivering better business outcomes and better outcomes for our tenants.
Right, sounds like an amazing future, but complicated and relying lots on technology.
That's the aspiration.
Yes. Ian, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's obviously, touching on, what three have already said. I think it's obviously exciting, but obviously you've just got to be able to understand that. So your partnerships with, technology companies or your local universities, so you can get those skills in-house. I think that's where you're going to be able to go and do it. Find the use cases that are critical to yourself. Don't try and shoot for the stars straight away, but try and build on successes that you get. I think you've got to take steps and also make sure you've got executive sponsorship to make sure that you're able to drive that forward, because I think if you're doing it in a small yourself, then it's likely that you'll have some success, but then how do you grow on that? So I think it's important to understand the technology. Technology is probably the easiest bit. The processes, the people around it are probably the harder bit to implement. Within a sector maybe where you don't have as much money as some of the other sectors, it's going to be difficult. But because these come more mainstream, try and keep on top of it. TikTok's great, but there's learning there. How do you go and learn? So I think it's looking at the youth around you. How can they come in and help you understand and drive that forward? So I think definitely there's going to be things where you need to be careful, but also it's look at opportunities, embrace it, but keep reviewing what's there. I think that's important. Don't implement something and forget about it. You have to continually keep on top of the models. It's a thing that you're going to have to keep watering and making sure it's delivering the answers that you want to. So it's exciting, but also temper that with understanding that it's how do you control that as well.
Yeah, I think you make a really important point about bringing the business along with you, and it's so much a business change thing rather than technology. So that's a really great point. So at this point, we now go slightly off piste. So we had pre-prepared questions. The team had a chance to get organised. Now they don't. So if you want to see some people sweat, here we go. We've had 9-10 questions come in. I'm just going to go through them and just randomly pick a bunch of the panel to go through them. Dominica, can I start with you?
Oh, God. Pressure.
It's an easy question.
Thank you.
I think it is anyway. So someone's raised the question, can external partners have access to the minutes from the AI Council?
Sorry?
Can external partners have access to the minutes from the AI Council?
I think so. We have published a guide, and that is available on the website. But absolutely, we're happy to share that, and I think that's definitely something achievable. There's nothing secret going on in there. As I said before, it's more about that's transparency, accountability, making sure that it's owned jointly by everybody in the business. We are a data analytics company, so we need to care about this really. So I can't see why we wouldn't be able to publish minutes. We have them recorded from every single session we've had.
And I guess from the perspective of a social housing provider, if you're building your own council, you're defining your own AI standards, it's important you talk to your suppliers and vendors about what's important to you and where you're going.
Yeah.
So if you're running your own council, you should have your own rules. You need to set your own framework and your own way of working and get people to come and work with you and fit into that model. It's your business, they're your customers, and you've got to define what's right for you and what isn't. So I think that's really important. Slightly tricky question, technical one. So don't worry.
It's going to be one of the ones.
Yeah.
So Ian, can I ask you this? Do you think the benefits of using AI outweigh its very high energy costs from a climate perspective?
So obviously from a Microsoft perspective, we are obviously we've got data centers all around the world. We're looking at ways to sort of do that, whether we put those in certain areas of the world. We did have something, you go and look it up, there was Project Natic, where we put a very small data center off the coast in Scotland, so it was naturally cooled and things like that. So we're looking at ways for sustainability as well. So understand that yes, it is obviously this great thing about driving, not only the power and things like that. It's obviously the resources to build the chips that power it. So I think there is this balance. Microsoft is I think one of our things is we're trying to be carbon neutral as soon as possible, and we've set that out quite early to try and do that. And also anything that we've put in prior to that, since Microsoft has been incepted, so we're trying to do bring all that back in. So I do think it is quite hard to do, but I think if you do look at it, we're also giving tools to customers to look about, what's their sustainability. So if you are using one of our data centers, how do you offset that against, if you were doing it locally in your own data centers? So you could say, well, Microsoft is doing this. So I think it is a challenge, but we're trying to work with customers to try and offset that in the way we can. I think we're probably one of the leaders in that one, but I think there's still a lot that we could do further.
Yeah. And I think if you look at the external world, there is massive investment in data center technologies. So whilst they are very high consumers of power, they're also super innovative in terms of how they stay cool, how they use green energy. So it's a tricky question, but I think it's a fair one. But I think there is massive innovation in that data center space as well. Siobhan, can I tackle a business question? Mm-hmm. So for anyone nervous about getting into AI, how do you start small, get familiar, and ease in gently in a controlled way to build confidence and reassurance?
Do you know what? I think it's all about the narrative, isn't it? And quite rightly, this is about people. And it will cause job displacement, but we've got to invest to save, because that's what it's about. But we've got to invest in our people and empower them with the skills, with the learning to do the job and to evolve with the pace of change. So governance is absolutely key. Leadership buy-in is key. Yeah. But I think it's having that narrative that is actually really meaningful, and it's about really flogging the benefits. So the benefits to customers, the benefits to the business through a real good, robust business case, and the benefits to our colleagues. If we can stop our colleagues from spinning the plates and navigating through all these different systems, it's a time saving, but it's actually boosts morale, because people in the sector, they work in the sector because they actually care, and if we can free up their time to actually do the job that they are so passionate about doing, that's a massive incentive. So narrative is important, leadership, accountability, good governance. Start with your quick wins and then have a roadmap. And I would promote actually engaging with commercial partners. Understand what the offer is. How is it going to address some of the root causes to the problems and the pinch points that we have in our organisation? So again, it goes back to your business case and looking at that commercial case through your options appraisal. This is the problem we want to fix. What are the options out there that can actually do that, and look at the financial benefits and look at those softer benefits as well.
All right, thank you, Siobhan. I've got a really cheesy phrase that summarises everything you just said, and that cheesy phrase is think big, start small, grow quickly. I think it's building as a business a really interesting vision about where you want to take AI, and then picking off pieces of it, gaining that confidence, proving the value, proving you can do it, working out where you need external help from external vendors, where you've got deep internal skills, and then build on top of that. So think big, start small, grow quickly. Ian, anything else to add on that from a business point of view?
Yeah, I think the key is know the benefits, have the problem that you're trying to solve, not trying to put a solution in and then find the problem that you're trying to fix. The benefits are the key thing, so I think it also goes back to the point around the sustainability as well. AI does have a cost, data centers have a cost, but at the same time a use case could be reduction in travel internally. So you could offset your carbon footprint almost by going, well, we know it adds 102 tons of CO2, but actually these 10 things that we've done actually offset that and puts us in a negative element when it comes to that. So I think benefits, we've done a few proof of concepts. We just use our standard innovation and project management kind of processes, business case, it's just a different method and a medium of how you're trying to achieve a goal. So I would say don't think of AI as something that's different to any other type of business change. Follow the same standard processes that you probably have. Business case, return on investment, and I would say do it with a certain period of time. We did one with a product called Viable. Team loved it for the first 3 months. After 12 months, they were like, didn't quite do what we wanted. So make sure you've got enough time in there before you go, let's push the button, because scale fast, absolutely. If you know it's right, it's right. But make sure that time frame of doing that proof of concept gives you enough. If you're doing quarter ends, if you're doing year ends, make sure they're factored in.
Yeah, and it's important to learn, take those learnings back into the business.
Fail fast, fail forward.
Keep iterating. Yeah, absolutely. Got time probably for 2 more questions, I think. Ian, another technical question for you, or technically oriented question. How can we actually use AI to actually help clean up data so we don't have to hold off until our data is squeaky clean?
I suppose that's dependent on the tools. So a lot of the tools out there today will help you understand. Again, talked a bit about co-pilots. A lot of our products have now got co-pilots built in, which, the one that I look after with Power BI, or one of the new ones was called Fabric. They've got co-pilots who will help you understand what the data is. And I think it's building processes around that to help the people who are having to use those tools and make it easy for them. So again, the co-pilots will suggest things in there, look at patterns and things. So it's about making that easy. What we try to do with a lot of our products is trying to reduce the friction of integrating them together. So it's about trying to bring one tooling that does everything. The person who's doing that, whether that be a data scientist or a business citizen who's trying to find the insights, it's having one UI that's very similar to our Office products and things like that. So if you've got a UI that's familiar, you can go and find the tools that help you to go and deliver that. So I would say AI is very good at pointing some things out, but it doesn't beat a data scientist or things like that. So we've got an office in Manchester, where I work here at the UA92. So we're trying to work with students and things like that around that. So we offer courses around that. So again, it's working with people who've got those skills to bring them in, and then train up internally to sort of understand. So a lot of the terms, we like in technology to bring new terms in, whether they be 3-letter acronyms or TLAs, to do that. Microsoft is no different, but they're no different maybe than some of the technologies or the processes that we're using years ago. So it's just understanding, what those processes are and then being able to implement them. So I think, it's always that co-pilot, so it's not the pilot. So you just need to look at, well, what benefits does it do? Bring it back to your point, it's about failing fast quickly. It's understanding there's problems there and understanding, well, is it still fit for purpose to go and deliver what we're trying to achieve? So you need to understand where you're trying to get to, I think, to then use the technology to help you. Yeah.
And I think, again, there are lots of external companies willing to help and assist and guide. There's so much technology out there to help you these days. You're not on your own. There's plenty of support and help available. We've got about 3 minutes left. I'm going to wrap up with a business question for Siobhan. So for Siobhan, what does your technology transformation roadmap look like? Can you just describe it at a really high level in a very short space of time?
Okay, it's got to mirror whatever your vision is and what the strategic outcomes are. It's got to mirror that, and it's about engagement with the business. So understanding what the real pinch points are, doing the discovery and getting the buy-in to that roadmap. Do your quick wins, but it's about long-term benefits. So in a nutshell, something that actually mirrors what the ambitions of your housing association are, based on consultation with tenants, performance against the consumer standards and the TSMs, and also winning hearts and minds with the business. So it's a corroborated roadmap that everyone has bought into.
Yeah. So in short, keep it real.
Keep it real. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, great, thank you.
And like what Ian said, it's not, it's about really understanding what the problem is. It's not about here's the solution, what's the problem. It's actually what is the problem, and then really understanding that solution. So that engagement with the commercial partners is absolutely key. Yeah. Right,
that's great, thank you. So we're done with the questions. You guys can relax now, have a sip of water. The opportunity ahead for social housing is just enormous. I've been working through our product strategy at Mobysoft and doing a refresh and looking at where we think we could apply AI, analytics, new tooling to the entire social housing space. The opportunity in terms of where we think we can help is just colossal. So it's a super exciting time. I've been in the industry, IT, for over 30 years, worked for software companies all my life. I've never seen anything like this in terms of the business opportunity, how we can transform your customers' lives, and we can make incredible use of technology. It's a super, super exciting time. You are not alone, is probably the parting message. We would love to sell you technology. Please come and see us. But there are many, many vendors here today, and just generally, that are able to help and assist you on that journey. Because it is complex, there's lots of nuances, there's lots of detail to work through. So please do go and lean on third parties. That's what they're there for. Thank you very much. Thank you to the panel. We're looking a bit more relaxed now. I hope you found it useful. We'll be around if you want to come and talk to us a bit later on about any of these topics. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of the conference. Thank you, everyone.